Good morning. Good morning.
Morning, Bear. Morning, Wrecker.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
I'm excited because I was right, and I just wanted to brag because I'm never right.
Go ahead. All right, Record. We need to give him a minute. Chat, if you shall indulge us, please. We need to let Beck get this out, okay?
Actually, I was right too.
All right.
Yeah. Were you the other person in the chat that said 4 hours? Less than 4
Yeah,
hours?
Wait a minute.
I was like, it's all gonna be on.
All right, Bear on the bottom. Let the men have it for a minute. I'll just be quiet.
Yes, hang on a minute. Let me just pull out and just
wait. This is going to be a rare moment. I'm actually going to be quiet and shut up for the whole. All right, wait a minute. It's 9:20. You got 5 minutes, guys. Go ahead. 5 minutes. Go ahead. It's your show for 5 minutes.
Whoa. I knew it. I knew it because the defense, they had no fucking case, and it was just so freaking obvious he did it. And I don't know. I just said, you know what? I think it's gonna be less than 4 hours. I don't know. I just felt. I just knew the jury was gonna know that the whole fucking thing was ridiculous and he was guilty. That's my story.
I had a huge part of me that was just like, they've already decided that they already know. They already just want to get this shit over and done with. Okay. They don't give a fuck.
They've known for a week, right?
They've known for way too long.
Right. Okay, I'm done.
Of course. Let's not lie here. There was a small part of us that was thinking he could get away with this.
No, actually, I didn't think he was going to get away with it. I thought either we were going to come back
there's going to be some kind of hung trial.
Hung jury.
That's what I mean. Like it's going to be like a hung jury, and it's going to be like another, I don't know how long. But
yep. That's where that's where I saw it going. I figured it was either right away or he was going to skate and they were going to have to do something later. Yep. Good shit. Good call, Wrecker. I don't know who else called. There was like one or two other people in the chat. I think it was like Paul or Pete or somebody said it, or Jen. I don't remember, but yeah, I'm glad though. I don't know about you guys, but we just need to get this moving because it was just ridiculous to sit here and think that this guy didn't do it. It's just so obvious. So obvious.
Oh yeah. Although when you look at him, I actually watched back one of the videos, and when you're watching him doing the sentencing, it may just be the fact that he's a lawyer and he knows how to keep his composure, but it would look more like a guy who was just accepting something for someone else than it was. I'm only speculating, but it genuinely looked like someone taking the rap for someone else, and it did as if he was taking it for himself.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, though. When he's a pathological liar, he's a lawyer who knows how to act in court. He's a guy who kept a face on for 20 freaking years. Of course, he can put a face on whenever he wants. That's what he's been doing. Acting like everybody's buddy, and he cares about everybody so he can get what he wants out of life. So yeah, I'm not shocked that it came back so fast. Like I said, it was either fast or hung. That's where I was at with it. So.
Yeah. And I'm glad it was fast.
Me too. What do you think, Bear?
Wait, I still have 2 minutes to be quiet.
No, go ahead. You're fine.
I mean, it was incredibly humbling how accurate
I can't be quiet now. No, Mr. Humble. No, I cannot be quiet now, Mr. Humble.
Oh, no, Wrecker.
No, he's gonna stop. But actually, I do want to say thank you to both of you, Beck, for helping keep me sane for the last 4 weeks. It's been
I loved it.
It's actually been 6 weeks when you do 5 days a week, right? It's been 28 days of trial. I started on the 4th day. Yeah, we've been here. We were going into the 6th week. Yep.
Yeah. Going into the 5th week, I think, or 6th.
And on the 7th week, she rested.
And then Wrecker, I want to thank you also. If for those that don't know, Wrecker is behind the scenes helping me with editing and audio all the time. Those of you in the Discord know, like last night we were up, and one of the reasons that you all have the mini videos of every single closing statement separate, Waters, Meters, and Griffin, and also the verdict. We actually clipped out just the verdict for everyone. They're in the description video. Mr. Technical, Mr. Humble over there helped me with that. But so, and to everybody who's come up, like Godless Granny and Always Createful, who helps with the research in the back, into all my mods. I just wanted to take a minute to say it wouldn't be possible without all you guys,
thank you.
Because you can't do this alone. You need to have the support of people around you. My mods, I'm always so grateful for them. They keep that chat going. They keep the bullshit away from me the best that they can and let me be able to sit up here and talk. People like Beck, who just like to do the same thing that I do and just get along and just come and just be helpful and keeping the conversation going and just share the passion,
Well, and thanks, Bear. But I gotta tell you, it was you in the chat that made me keep coming back, because I just enjoyed hanging out with you guys. It was good conversations, joking around when we needed it, being serious when it was pertinent. I just think it's a really good flow here, and I just really enjoyed it. So I'm glad I was here for it. So thanks for having me.
That means a lot. That means a lot to me. Thank you. And there's my mate, High Inquisitor. Damn. I know, Begins throwing shit around. Let's see how good those mods are. Quiz. God, I also want to thank him. If anybody keeps my spirits up. Oh, and I'd like to add, especially here's another secret. Bear tends to not sleep enough. Okay, I think that's not even a secret. I think you all know that. So I'd like to thank 2 gentlemen, High Inquisitor and Charlie Welsh, 2 of my mods, who actually get my ass up sometimes. They know where to find me and wake me up. And
I was gonna say, Quiz. I don't know how many times Quiz and Charlie have woke you up.
Have woken me up. So the reason you had to stream every day, not only are the 2 gentlemen up here and many of the people behind the scenes, like Always Createful, Godly Granny, who comes up, Bearded Heretic, who just throws that little, nudge at me, with with the humor in the chats and also the psychological angle of anything, and just will indulge me in talking about the bullshit, but those two guys, yes, I did call you gentlemen. Yes, High Inquisitor and Charlie Welsh, I told you both gentlemen. You're
Hey,
just gonna have
quiz.
to take
Mistakes
it. You're just
happen.
gonna have to but
How do you think I was born?
yeah, oh gosh, exactly. Well, but my point is, before we get started with the sentencing, is that things don't happen alone. They don't happen in a vacuum, and that I'm always going to be grateful for every single one of you, because I didn't forget you people in the chat. I'm not forgetting you. Oh, and John's right. The real deal sealer here, the real reason everything gets going, it's the coffee. Bless the coffee, people. And pass the
Blessed
coffee
be
around.
thy coffee, holy be thy
Yeah.
name.
Yes, and just put
Their
that
roast
around.
be done.
I don't know. Oh wait, we've got Clockwork down here.
Great, I'm
Okay.
away from the mic, and I thought
Yeah.
of the next one. Anyways,
Okay. Hey,
cup
Clockwork.
as
I
in,
didn't.
in
Yeah.
cup as it is in mug.
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah.
I
It's
didn't
fine.
mean to leave you
Hi,
down there,
everybody.
dude. I was kind of involved in my gratitude to the world at the moment.
Oh, yeah. I get it.
Yeah. hmm
Hi,
Well,
all you guys.
mhm. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that sometimes, like right here, most of us, we have like this little pod of, we all thought that Alex Murdaugh was guilty, right? And we all thought that the evidence was all good and this, that, and everything. We're all pretty much on the side of the prosecution a lot. I think we were, at least I was, and I will admit it. But I want to also remind you that I have like really, really good friends and everyone who absolutely think this was a raw deal. They really do. And that doesn't, the only thing that means is that we have a different opinion. That you're going to see people come into the chat or be on my Twitter feed or all over that have totally different opinions, and you're not going to know whether they're like my best bud or not, because I allow all of that like discourse back and forth, talk about it, everything like that. And I do it with grace. And I'd have to say that the people that are actually thinking that, not even if he was guilty, they didn't appreciate some of the things that happened prior to the trial in regards to the indictment and things like that. And so they're really actually sticking up for the letter of the law and for things that they believe in. And I have to give them great respect for that. So I would just like to say, if others out there do not have the same opinion as any of us, that's like that, it doesn't hurt to give them a little bit of grace in regards to it, because the other side always has value, even if it's in strengthening your own arguments or your own opinions about things.
Well, I don't blame him, Claire. Look how good he was at manipulating people.
Yeah.
A lot of people are gonna believe him. It's nothing against the person that believes him, or it's nothing against the person that wants to make sure that the law was done correctly. That's wonderful. It's just the way it is. It's just the way he's done his whole life. Look at everybody he did manipulate, It's easy to fall into that that emotional trap, and that's what he was doing. He was he threw an emotional trap on the ground constantly. It's just whether somebody stepped in it or not. So I don't blame anybody for everything. And everybody's allowed to have their own opinions, their own thoughts, and why would anybody, persecute them for that anyways?
Yeah.
We're all human.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
And as I said, like, I honestly think, hindsight's 2020. We know what the verdict is now, but I can almost guarantee there's a huge percentage of chat that at least had it in the back of their head, this guy might actually get off somehow, or this guy might get a hung jury, because that was a very real.
It was.
That was a very real card on the table.
I will tell you, I am quite amused at like 2 legal channels at least who I watched do a 360 right when the verdict was coming out. Like, seriously. Like, their stream before was all like blah, blah, blah. And then as soon
Oh
as the verdict
no.
came out, it was all whoa, whoa, whoa. And I was like, like that. That was comical. Yeah. I was like, it was comical. And I'm not trying to be right, because let's remember also that I actually woke up not only feeling grateful for everyone that has been a part of all of this, you know, doing a live trial is not an easy thing. The hours alone are immense, you know, and then the stuff you have to do before the back of it, you know, before the back,
Absolutely.
you know, it's just a lot. And yes, you're right, Pete Hutchins. Fit News did get me going. Yes, it did, and they inspired me, and it was actually Fit News that spurred me to actually do the live stream. It was something I read that they put out like right before, because they were doing the jury selection. As you know, part of my series does not have the jury selection in it. I came in on day 4 when the trial actually started. Well, like the actual testimonies and all, and the opening statements. But Pete's right. It was Fit News, and I give them a lot of credit. I give Pete a lot of credit too. He kept me up to date with documentaries, behind the scenes information, timeline, kept me on, you know, little tidbits here and there with his research. But what I woke up thinking about was Murdaugh's family, Buster, actually.
You wake up thinking, shit,
Yes, I
man. If
did.
I hadn't had my first cup of coffee, I don't think about shit. I got to go to the bathroom. That's about it. Yeah.
Well, that's the difference between guys and a woman.
Well, fair enough.
They actually get up thinking.
I'm about to make this a really small screen. Like, okay, listen. Actually, yes, I woke up thinking about Buster, and it's not a woman thing. It's a bear thing. There's
It's
always
a bear.
No.
there's
it's
always two.
for
There's
him.
always two sides to a story. So although justice was served for Buster's mother and Buster's brother, for Buster, it doesn't feel like justice to watch his father walk away in handcuffs again, or to hear his father say, "I'm sorry, I love you" in the courtroom, you know, while he's sitting there crying. You know, there's a lot of reckoning going to be going on with that family. We're going to hear some things today, and I guess I'm starting out this way because during sentencing, and I don't know if it's going to be true or not for this particular case or this particular courtroom, but you get to hear from both sides, both the for the the guilty party and for the victims' families. You get to hear pleadings from everyone in regards to this, in regards to sentencing. And we may actually hear from Buster or Randy or John Marvin or his sister or Alex Murdaugh's sister pleading for leniency because, you know, his sentencing actually affects them too. And you know, that's not unusual. But you also could hear from Maggie's parents or Maggie's sister or cousins or anyone related, or you could hear from Paul's friends, you know. It should be pretty interesting. I don't know how long it's going to go. It could just be cut and dry too if nobody came forward and wanted to speak. Remember, this is a small town with a big reputation. This man had a huge reputation in the area. They may all just decide to stay quiet and just let the judge do the sentencing. It could be over in 15 minutes.
Right.
Which is why I went so far to thank you all now, because it could be that quick and we could be parting ways until the next live trial, you know, which I have no idea about. Really,
Well,
I think. Yeah.
I think that might actually be a good poll to have, Liam. Is Buster going to ask for leniency?
I'm going to put that up.
Oh, he's allowed to do that?
Sure he is.
They do. Like I was saying, they get to come and they get to plead for the accused, just like the family gets to plead for, you know, what they would like for the victims.
Okay. Okay.
Well, what surprised me about it was that they came back so quick and it was convicted on all counts. I thought they might have left one out and said not guilty, but they didn't. It was all counts. So
Yeah,
I
I don't
think
know
if
which one they could possibly leave out though, because here's the thing.
They're
Like I
all
thought
very
about that.
interconnected.
I thought about that. If they said no guilty to the guns, then they would have had to say no guilty to the murder, because by saying he murdered them, they're saying he had the guns. Okay, that he did it. So there
yeah,
was no way they could leave any of it. And which one they're gonna leave out, Maggie or Paul? Like
I
what?
don't think they're
Like,
going to leave
no.
anything
Yeah.
out, and I don't think he's going to ask because his dad's already going to spend life in prison either way.
Mhm.
Why bother? I mean,
I
he might do it just because the family may want him to, or he knows it's the right thing to do, or he still cares about his father. But I
Mhm.
mean, there's really no sense in it, honestly.
here's what I think is going to happen if he does take the stand to say anything. He's going to say something along the lines of, my world's been flipped upside down. My dad, who I loved, is now the man who stands before me, who has killed my mother and killed my brother, by the letter of the law. And I will forever forever have that hanging over my head, or something along those lines. Whether he asks for leniency or not, I don't know. But I feel like he's going to make some sort of gesture towards the fact that his entire life is sort of crumpled around him.
Mm-hmm.
Or he's not going to say anything at all.
Yeah, I get it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he's, I don't know. I think if it was just Buster, he'd keep his mouth shut, but I think he's going to get up and say something because the family expects it. Liz,
Shit, I
you are
was going to say
absolutely
something,
correct.
but I forgot.
Liz said Buster's lucky to be alive, if you ask me. And I agree with that. Like, what saved him was that he was living with his girlfriend 3 hours away. I think that's the only thing that saved him from this. And he wasn't he was currently making Daddy mad with the plagiarism. Never mind. Yep, I think him being farther away saved him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Rocket Couch, it was definitely guilty, all 4 counts. And I just gave you the link there to what we clipped out for it, just separate. It's real short if you want to hear it. By the way, everybody, all those clips are in the description. All of the closing arguments, Meters, Waters, Griffin, the verdict itself, and both of the openings, Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Liam said,
definitely.
what does it mean if he doesn't speak? If he doesn't get up to speak? What do you guys think?
Murdaugh or
He's
Pete?
too ashamed.
If Buster doesn't get up to speak, why do you think that is?
Well, I don't know what it actually means, but I do believe, because I don't want to analyze him. I don't have the skill or the education for it. But
Yeah.
personally, I think what we saw was someone not dealing with it to begin with. Remember how flat his affect was. Remember how he was constantly chewing on his fingers and distracted and just he had the nervous grin. He had the nervous tics of someone who may not have been dealing with the whole thing all along. Remember, it is his mother and his brother who died or who were murdered, and now it is his father that has been convicted guilty of it. It was his father who, to all the things, they may have had, like all families, disagreements and problems and skeletons in the closet, but they were still a family. They were still day to day a father and a son. And it looked like that wasn't that bad a relationship. They got along, they talked, he's with his uncles all the time. There's closeness there. I don't know if he would be dealing it right away. If he would be actually, I think it's going to take quite a while for him to wrap his mind about it. But we're not going to have time to talk about it because here comes the judge.
Oh, here we go.
Newman presiding.
Everybody mute, please, once he brings the jury in.
Shall we go picture in?
Oh, this way. Is it work? Does it cut him out too much? I don't know. How's that? That actually looks nice. Thanks, Rick.
I like it.
Oh,
Nothing to be read on the bottom, so I think it's
Morning.
great.
This is why he's in the back there. He's really good. I should listen to him
Party's
more
ready
often.
to proceed.
Don't tell him no.
Bench is ready, Your Honor.
All right, from the state, Mr. Waters.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're obviously here in the sentencing for the state versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh. Your Honor,
Oh,
I have
God.
prepared the
What just
sentencing
happened?
sheets signed up. If I can hand those up to the clerk. Your Honor, very quickly, the defendant has no prior record, and the state has no victim impact people who want to speak at this time. But I will address the court briefly. And I don't need Your Honor to repeat the evidence that Your Honor just heard for the past 6 weeks, but it is overwhelming. And it shows this man to be a cunning manipulator, a man who placed himself above all others, including his family. A man who violated the trust of so many, including his friends, his family, his partners, his profession, but most of all, Maggie and Paul. This is a very complicated situation, and I want to offer my condolences to the family that has suffered here. We have tried very hard to be respectful and sensitive regardless of what position any person took, because this family has suffered and they've had to suffer in the public eye. And I want to offer my condolences to this family. I want to offer it for Maggie and Paul and Mr. Randolph too, who I had the pleasure of working with on one occasion. But the reality remains is that despite all this attention, this case is about Maggie Murdaugh and Paul Murdaugh, and I'm so thankful that the jurors gave them a voice. You heard about Paul. Obviously, there was the boat case, but you also heard him described as a fun-loving young man, a person who loved life, a person who would do anything for his friends, for anyone. And he's cut down as he was just starting to live his life. You heard about Maggie. You heard how sweet she was. You heard that she was a girl's girl who adapted to the outdoorsman life of her sons, how much she loved her sister and her brother-in-law and their children. And she was cut down in the prime of her life. Both of them, like everyone else, was unaware of who he really was. No one who thought they knew this man, no one who thought they were close to this man knew who he really was. And Your Honor, that's chilling. And I've looked in his eyes, and he liked to stare me down as he would walk by me during this trial. And I could see the real Alex Murdaugh when he looked at me. The depravity, the callousness, the selfishness of these crimes are stunning. The lack of remorse and the effortless way in which he lies, including here sitting right over there in this witness stand. Your Honor, a man like that, a man like this man, should never be allowed to be among free law-abiding citizens again. And I would submit to you that the only just sentence here to give justice for Maggie and Paul is the maximum, and that would be 2 consecutive life sentences. Thank you, Your Honor.
You indicate that no victim would like to speak at this time. Would any victim like to speak at any time during these proceedings?
Your Honor, one of the things we did early on, obviously, as I just said, it's a very complicated situation, but we made the decision early on. We've had our victim advocate here who's been doing a wonderful job, regardless of the viewpoints of any individual family member, to provide aid and service to them. And we made that decision. I'm informed by our victim advocate that none of them wish to speak. The defense can certainly address that, but that's what I am informed. But they certainly were offered the opportunity as is required. And I want to commend our victim advocate on the excellent job she did in handling this complex situation that we wanted to be sensitive to, because again, none of us are not mindful of the fact of the suffering of this family.
I know the SLED Chief Mark Keel is here. Would you like to address the court on any matters, Chief?
No, sir. Just to say, again, we're proud of our agents, the work they've done, and proud of the partnership that we've had with the Attorney General's office as we've had for many years. And again, we're here to see that justice is served, and we believe it has been.
Thank you. For the defense.
Your Honor, Mr. Griffin and I would have no comment. The defendant would like to address the court, though.
Mr. Murdaugh.
Good morning, Your Honor. I'm innocent. I would never hurt my wife, Maggie, and I would never hurt my son, Pawpaw.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Anything further?
I don't think further comment is necessary, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Murdaugh, if you'll come to the court for sentencing. This has been perhaps one of the most troubling cases, not just for me as a judge, for the state, for the defense team, but for all of the citizens in this community, all the citizens in this state, and as we have seen based on the media coverage throughout the nation. You have a wife who's been killed, murdered, a son savagely murdered, a lawyer, a person from a respected family who has controlled justice in this community for over a century. Whose grandfather's portrait hang at the back of the courthouse that I had to have ordered removed in order to ensure that a fair trial was had by both the state and the defense. And I've sat through the trial. Not only have I sat through the trial, but also as the presiding judge of the state grand jury, sat through and participated in the issuance of search warrants of various sorts, bond hearings, and have had to consider many things. And we have this case, and I'm also assigned to preside over 99 others, at least 99 other cases. Though testimony has come up regarding many of those other cases, I will not make any comment with regard to any other pending matter, as I have been assigned those cases as well. It's also particularly troubling, Mr. Murdaugh, because as a member of the legal community and a well-known member of the legal community, you've practiced law before me, and we've seen each other at various occasions throughout the years. And it was especially heartbreaking for me to see you go in the media from being a grieving father who lost a wife and a son to being the person indicted and convicted of killing them. And you've engaged in such duplicitous conduct here in the courtroom, here on the witness stand, and as established by the testimony throughout the time leading from the time of the indictment and prior to the indictment throughout the trial to this moment in time. Certainly, you have no obligation to say anything other than saying not guilty. And obviously, as appeals are probably expected or absolutely expected, I would not expect a confession of any kind. In fact, as I've presided over murder cases over the past 22 years, I have yet to find a defendant who could go there, who could go back to that moment in time when they decided to pull the trigger or to otherwise murder someone. I have not been able to get anyone, any defendant, even those who have confessed to being guilty, to go back and explain to me what happened at that moment in time when they opted to pull the trigger, when they opted to commit the most heinous crimes known to man. In this case, qualifies under our death penalty statute based on the statutory aggravating circumstances of 2 or more people being murdered by the defendant by one act or pursuant to one scheme or course of conduct. I don't question at all the decision of the state not to pursue the death penalty. But as I sit here in this courtroom and look around the many portraits of judges and other court officials and reflect on the fact that over the past century, your family, including you, have been prosecuting people here in this courtroom, and many have received the death penalty, probably for lesser conduct. Remind me of the expression you gave on the witness stand. Was it tangled?
Tangled web, we weave.
Oh, what tangled web we weave. What did you mean by that?
It meant when I lied, I continue to lie.
And the question is, when will it end? When will it end? And it's ended already for the jury because they've concluded that you continued to lie and lied throughout your testimony. And perhaps with all the throng of people here, they, for the most part, all believe, or 80, 90%, 99% believe that you continue to lie now when your statement of denial to the court. Perhaps you believe that it does not matter, that there's nothing that can mitigate a sentence given the crimes that were committed. You know, a notice of alibi was filed in this case by counsel in November, and we conducted a hearing, pretrial hearing, in which you claimed to have been someplace else at the time the crime was committed. Then, after all of the witnesses placed you at the scene of the crime, at the last minute, or last minutes or days, you switch courses and admitted to being there. And then that necessitated more lies and continued to lie. And I said, where will it end? It's already ended for many who have heard you and concluded that it'll never end. But within your own soul, you have to deal with that. And I know you have to see Paul and Maggie during the night times when you're attempting to go to sleep. I'm sure they come and visit you. I'm sure.
All day and every night.
Yeah, I'm sure. And they will continue to do so. And reflect on the last time they looked you in the eyes, as you looked the jury in the eyes. I don't know person who's always been such a gregarious, friendly person and cause their life to be tangled in such a web, such a situation that yours have spun into. And it's so unfortunate because you had such a lovely family of such friendly people, including you, and to go from that to this. You know, your license to practice law has been stripped away from you. You turned from lawyer to witness, and now have an opportunity to make your final appeal as an ex-lawyer. And it's almost, it's really surprising that you're waiving this right at this time. And if you opt to do so, it's on you. You're not compelled to say anything, but you have the opportunity to do so.
Judge, I tell you again, I respect this court, but I'm innocent. I would never, under any circumstances, hurt my wife, Maggie, and I would never, under any circumstances, hurt my son, Paul.
Well, and it might not have been you. It might have been the monster you become when you take 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 opioid pills. Maybe you become another person. I've seen that before. The person standing before me was not the person who committed the crime, though it's the same individual. We'll leave that at that. Before announcing sentence on these cases, with regard to all of the other pending cases, are any of them here in Colleton, or I'm sure some of them are?
Yes, sir.
Half of them, or?
I don't have that in front of me, but there are a substantial number of charges here. There's some in Hampton, Orangeburg, Beaufort, Allendale. There may be others that I'm not thinking of right now.
We might have worn out our welcome here in Colleton. They have been, and I'll take this opportunity to thank Sheriff Hill and all of the court officials and really everyone I've met and dealt with while here in Colleton County. Just been great. But without any delay, we're going to schedule some of the other matters. I know Mr. Harpootlian's scheduling is complicated, and you've sacrificed quite a bit to be able to be here defending Mr. Murdaugh, as well as the Attorney General's office, with all the other many things and obligations you have. And to be able to have the Attorney General here, Alan Wilson, for the period of time that he's devoted to being here, along with everyone else, it's been quite a sacrifice. But there are other victims whose cases deserve to be heard. And this case has jumped some of those other cases, perhaps jumped it because of this case resulting in an assault on the integrity of the judicial system in our state, law enforcement in our state. Even during this trial, the law enforcement have been maligned for the past 5 or 6 weeks by one who had access to the wheels of justice, to be able to deflect the investigation. And as the evidence is pointed out in this case, the looming storm that Mr. Waters talked about, I can just imagine on that day, June 7th, when a lawyer is confronted and confesses to having stolen over $500,000 from a client. And he has a tiger like Mark Tinsley on his tail, pursuing discovery in the case involving the death of Mallory Beach, and having a father, for the most part, on his deathbed. I could imagine, I really can't imagine, but I know it had to have been quite a bit going through your mind on that day. But amazingly, to have you come and testify that it was just another ordinary day, that my wife and son and I were out just enjoying life. Not credible, not believable. You can convince yourself about it, but obviously you have the inability to convince anyone else about that. So if you made any such arguments as a lawyer, you would lose every case of that, like that. Cases you will never have an opportunity to argue anymore, except perhaps your own as you sit in the Department of Corrections. Anything further?
No, sir.
All right, Mr. Murdaugh, I sentence you to the State Department of Corrections on each of the murder indictments in the murder of your wife, Maggie Murdaugh. I sentence you for a term of the rest of your natural life for the murder of Paul Murdaugh, whom you probably love so much. I sentence you to prison for murdering him for the rest of your natural life. Those sentences will run consecutive. Under the statute involving possession of a weapon during a violent crime, there is no sentence where a life sentence is imposed on other indictments. That is the sentence of the court, and you are remanded to the State Department of Corrections. And and officers may carry forth on the imposition. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wow. Of course, Harpoolian is at the bench. Sidebar. We don't get to hear yet until he knows what it's about. Judge is always very careful like that. Oh, that
I
was
cannot.
a different Judge Newman, right, Beck? Like, whoa. He was so disgusted by this trial, and you never knew
Yeah.
it during the proceedings. Wow.
He has been
Wow.
so cool and calm
All
and
right,
respectful and
there you
professional.
go. A
But he
scathing
is
rebuke
just
from Judge
not
That's the
Clifton.
leprechaun.
kill the
I know
leprechaun.
she goes again. I just killed her. I'm sorry, guys.
Got
I'm
her.
sorry. And she catches me off guard every single time. She gets me every single time, doesn't she? Yeah, we'll have to wait till the little picture goes away because I actually muted the tabs, so I got to keep track. But wow, yeah, different judge. For those of you, like, I just want to
Yeah.
say, Christopher Mate, welcome, Marty, like, welcome. And you're actually seeing a different judge than we saw during the whole trial, because not once did he let any drip of emotion or opinion. Whoops, he's back. Hold on. Wait, is she still talking though? Wait a minute.
Alex stole Sasquatch.
Nope. Wait,
Yeah,
hold
I
on.
was gonna say though, you're right, Claire. I've never seen him like this. He's always been had
Not
a,
the
a
jury,
happy.
but then
Hold on.
leaving the courtroom while the jury is still seated. Protecting the identity of the jurors is certainly extremely important during the course of a trial to ensure that no one makes contact with the jury or attempts to influence the jury. The jurors have a right to continue that privacy beyond their jury service, but they're not obligated to do so. And it would not surprise me if jurors choose to come forward and to speak, and they're encouraged to do so if that is their desire. I have no problem whatsoever with the jurors unmasking themselves and speaking freely with the media, because they have undergone a life-changing experience, and as it relates to many of them. And some of them are here now, and I want them to know that should anyone attempt to harass them or annoy them, please let me know and I will address the issue. Secondly, there's a complaint now regarding the posting of autopsy photographs or photos that came from within the courtroom. It's based on the direction of the photographs. It did not come from the audience, came somehow from within the well of the court.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
The parties have requested an investigation of that.
He's not going to let that go.
I have my hands full doing my job, and I don't attempt to conduct any investigations beyond the conducting of a trial. But to the extent that law enforcement decides to review that, that's will be a responsibility of law enforcement. Yes. And
Oh, he wants
of
to
course,
smack.
one of the reasons we've sought to seal graphic photos is because the parties have a right to privacy and a right to those matters not being publicly disclosed. If anyone has heard about the recent settlement that Kobe Bryant's, another sports analogy, Kobe Bryant's wife just made with Los Angeles County and others out there over certain disclosures of information involving the death of Kobe Bryant. Liability can be substantial, and it's a risk for the most part that's not worth taking. So we'll let everyone judge themselves accordingly with that regard. Aside from all that, our business is done here in Colleton County, and I get to use my gavel one or few times during this trial and order that court be adjourned. Sonny died.
Wow. Yeah. Whoop. Oh, no. There
Quick,
she
quick,
goes.
quick, quick, quick.
I know. I got her. I've got to get the tab. Hold on. Okay.
Well, he wasn't
Sorry,
screwing around,
Leprechaun.
was
Go on.
he? He's
Wow.
like, let's
Who
get
has-
this over with.
Wow.
No, he wasn't. Yeah, and he definitely wanted to crack that mantle down like for some time now, for sure. I can
Oh
tell.
man.
I don't know.
Ooh, they held everybody back and let the Murdaughs leave first.
Well,
He,
you know what? Out of respect for all right, first of all, the Murdaugh family has a terrible reputation. We all know that. Like, they're not really well liked anymore in the area. They've got they had like a fearful reputation. Everybody was like, just don't mess with them. Like they were some kind of Southern judicial mafia of some sort, right? But in all respect, that family is not Alex Murdaugh, nor are they the murderers. So of course the court is going to let them go and going to have them protected and give them the dignity of being able to get out of there. So I'm actually happy about that. I am
I'm glad you did.
surprised, however, at the dripping disgust in the statements of Judge Newman, how offended he is at having this guy not actually confess.
And he gave him 2 opportunities right then and there.
He shamed him in public, and I was kind of surprised at him actually. That is not the man that we watched do the trial to me.
No.
He was so even. He never let any of that hit out. But when it kind of makes sense a little, and I don't want to like wax philosophical here, but yeah, Bear's going to wax philosophical. If you are someone who respects the law, as Judge Newman, you can tell that he does, the way he handles everything. To have a lawyer do what Alex Murdaugh has done unless you have been here and listened to the lies and listened to him manipulate and change in the 100 charges, I kid you not, 100 other financial and fraud charges against this man. Not murder, I understand, but just deceiving everyone for 20 years and then just to come in and still continue. He really believes he's still lying. He really just laid it out there. Like, you're still lying, and it's about time you like. It's almost like he's saying, haven't we spent enough money on you already? This is getting ridiculous. Like, just come clean. We're done with you, Alex Murdaugh. This is it. Like, murder is life. Like, you might as well just come clean with everything. Let's just stop. The amount that the state itself is going to have to go through. Just think of the astronomical amount of money. We've got 17 other indictments to handle.
But the thing is that it's not just Alex Murdaugh, the lawyer, he's looking at. It's Alex Murdaugh, the family man, the father, the brother, the cousin, the solicitor, and even worse, as Judge Newman said, the friend.
Exactly.
The friend who everyone loved, cherished, many feared, but still in a small town, they would have still cared about him.
Yeah, everyone.
right up until the very end.
Mm-hmm.
And I can almost
agree.
guarantee there are people out there who are in shock. Who I'm sure Judge Newman is in shock because he's had to stay so impartial throughout this whole thing and maintain his composure just for a fair and just trial to occur. That having him step up after the overwhelming majority have looked at the evidence, have looked at the situation, have listened to the testimony, and have sat there day in and day out and have him still say, I am an innocent man, deadpan faced at Judge Newman, looking him in the eye. I'm surprised Judge Newman stayed so composed.
I know. I think I would have been trying to cuss him out. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I'm innocent. I didn't kill Maggie, Papa. Shut up.
And
I
you
want to
could
interject.
yeah.
Can I interject real quick before this is over? I'm watching another feed of the courtroom still. Mark Ball is there. Mark Tinsley's there. They just came up and like hugged the prosecution, shook their hands, good job stuff. And then Tinsley's hanging out around the bench right now talking to Newman. And or no, I guess he's talking to the court people. Yeah, so no, they all came up. They've all been sitting there waiting, and I actually saw a lot of the witnesses for the state in the audience in the last couple of days. So yeah, so I just want to point that out. They're all up there.
No, great. Hey, I'd like to welcome Christopher Mate.
Mowdy, what's up, buddy?
Hey. Friends. Oh God, that voice. There you go. You must be overwhelmed, like walking into that.
So obviously, this is a national news story, so it's made all sorts of feeds. But I've been ignoring it until today, and then I tried to catch up real quick. Like
you can't catch up in one
day, just the way.
And I feel,
dude,
like
I've been on this for like 2 years. Exactly. Like it's like you got Jersey batted. They always tease me about the Jersey bat. Like, yeah, you did, because 2 years we've been on this. 100 other charges of financial misdeeds, insurance fraud, stealing from clients, friends, whatever. A family dynasty that goes back years in legal system, in law enforcement.
Centuries.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be
clear. Centuries
Netflix series about this in the coming months.
Actually there are 3 that I can do you have Google? Because you give me a Google, I can give you the Google link drive.
Of course I have Google.
Well, if you have a Google Drive, I've got all 3 documentaries. I'll send them to you, or that I was graciously enough to have sent to me. Like, unbelievable. They'll catch you up. But
I'll tell you what, even being naive to the backstory, watching the judge today was like an exercise in public shaming. I've never seen anything like this.
And he was not like that prior. That's what really tripped me up. It's like I'm listening to him all along. I was like, he's so even. He's so good. Like, he's really what I admire about the legal system. He's really giving him a fair trial. And then to see the dripping disgust on him at the sentencing, like it was apparent he wanted him.
I couldn't shake loose this particular phrase. Maybe it wasn't you that did the murder. Maybe you turn into someone else. Now I'm paraphrasing, but like
he called him a monster. He said you turn into the monster. Maybe it's the monster you turn into.
Yeah, you're
on opiates.
That was the deep cut, man.
Yep.
Well, he got on the stand and admitted to lying to everybody for 2 years because he's had a drug addiction, which everybody knew about anyway. After this state has, I kid you not, 18 indictments against him, Christopher. The fact that they're going to have to be dealing with this man on this level the way he fights legally. He actually thinks he's the smartest person in the room. He actually thinks he can get away with all of this no matter what. He can just explain it all away. They've got 18 indictments still to go. They got 17 left. This was only one. This was one of the worst, of course, but they have 17 other indictments to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And legally, I mean, just the fact that there was a murder, which is hard enough to deal with. Legally, though, the case was so fascinating. I didn't get involved because it's a murder, because unfortunately, and I don't want to sound jaded, but yeah, I am, murders happen every day. It was no big deal that it was a murder trial. It was not a big deal at all. What the big deal was, all the other indictments and whether or not 404B testimony was going to come in. And that is testimony that could be prejudicial, but turns out to be probative because it's actually part of the state of mind or motive, so to speak, or part of the what they called the embedding storm that was coming to engulf him, that put him in the state that made him commit the crime of murder. So that was the challenge right there. There was rumors that was going to be going back and forth. There was like, we knew all of this was going on, but just how do they deal with a murder case with all of that as the backstory? And the fact that the family had been in law enforcement and had been solicitors for the county forever, had a huge reputation of just don't mess with the Murdaughs. They were a big deal in that area. And to have him come out like that, and he's not even the black sheep of the family. It's almost like, well, of course, he's a Murdaugh. Of course he did it. Like as if, of course, he's going to get away with it. That was the attitude about everything. That was like the hooks. The hooks there are like, is anything actually going to stick? You know, and but it even got worse after that when we find out all the details of how much he lied, and person after person is coming up who he lied to, who he stole from. Every single client, he gets disbarred. There isn't a person out there that hasn't been touched by the case in that whole county and many counties around. It's just, whoa. Really
Yeah.
huge. Oh, do you mean Bob? Or do you mean Bubba? Yeah, I think Bubba's innocent, Tina.
Bubba's finally #innocent.
Bubba is
told you he had nothing to do with it, the poor dog.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm
Just
all for
ignore the
Bubba.
puddles of blood around him.
I would like to publicly reach out to Bubba. I know you have a story to tell, and I'm here for you, dude. If you want to tell it, Bubba, come. Come
We have
do a library
treats.
set. No, I joke.
We have treats.
Yeah. I shouldn't joke about it. This is actually quite serious, right now.
Well,
I get nervous. Then I
look,
joke.
we need, in a situation like this, we need dark humor just to get through. And if it has to come in the form of looking at a good boy like Bubba, then I think that's okay.
I think, but Christopher, if you're still there, you had made a comment in the chat that I wanted to ask you about. How did that feel to watch a judge actually really going in deep on someone like that psychologically as to the character of the man right there in front of everyone? Was it surprising?
It felt like he violated a couple boundaries, but I'm sure that, like that's just my naivety watching judges hand down, judgments or whatever. But it like, that there was overwhelming evidence, you know what I mean? That the decision was made that, that he was, found guilty by the jurors and stuff. Like him lingering on just like having the dude stand right in front of him and dressing him down. He was so calm about it. It was interesting. Like it
was a haunting statement.
Grace. It was just like, yeah, man, I get it. There's a part of you that does horrible things, and that version of you is not in front of me right now. Like that's almost like what I heard him saying.
Yeah, it's like, but I know he's there and I'm speaking to him. That's what I got too. You may be here as the man and I kind of feel for you, but I know that monster's in there, and let me talk to him for a minute because he really did want him to confess. I think this man is just I think the judge was just looking at how much they're still going to see. Alex Murdaugh. He's not done. He's appealing. Actually, we've been talking about that the whole time with this case going on, right, guys? Like, I'm like, yep, there goes the defense. Mark that one down. You're going to be putting that in the appeal. Definitely, I believe that paperwork is already on its way. And I'm wondering if the judge actually going this hard at him personally like that is actually going to be part of the appeal. That they're actually going to use that as bias and say the judge was biased all along, and that it's evident in his exit speech during the sentencing. And I was actually cringing a little going, Judge, I feel for you, sure, but be careful here because you're making it easy for them. And it's true. Hart Pullian and Griffin would be fools. And I know Murdaugh is going to want them to do that. I know if they don't do it, Murdaugh will hire others to do it, if not do it himself. That left the door wide open for bias.
I actually don't think that's going to fly. I honestly think that I think the judge will have a strong case for being justified in saying what he said, and that any other judge that may have to pick up the case and look at it will agree with him.
Well, personally, we could all go with that, but remember, when you're a judge, you're not personal. Period.
But he's finished.
No,
he simply handed down the sentence, and
that's where you're wrong,
it.
Record. The sentence is part of the process. It needs to be completed first. It still also needs to be biased and look at all sides in the legal system. You see, that's just it. That guilty plea doesn't end the process. Sentencing does, and a judge still needs to be of both minds and hear both sides. People pleading for the victims and people's also pleading for the accused and the one found guilty. The families of Alex Murdaugh could have still petitioned to the court for leniency, and he needs to be open-minded. His statements today showed he was not quite open-minded, and that could be used against him. And I don't mean to press that so hard on you, but when it comes to the legal about that this I know that's part of the process. Sentencing is still part of the process. It's not a done deal till it's done. Okay, an appeal, he just left it wide open, guaranteed that that's going to be in the appeal. In my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, but I've seen it, and I think he was just overwhelmed with having to keep it even the whole time, which he did a great job of. But it must be hard to be a legal professional and have someone from the legal profession in front of you disregarding the law, actually just
spitting in its face.
Yeah, practically spitting in its face with the lies and deceit and all he did. He actually used being a lawyer to fleece people on a regular basis, and then during the trial actually acted like no one was smarter than he was and manipulated the whole system. The judge has every right to be offended, but does he actually get to be? He shouldn't really show it while he's in there in the sentencing. I get it. We all get like that. And we've seen, like in the Brooks trial, where that judge who did their best, she put up with him,
oh God, the Brooks trial.
Yeah, but look at how that judge also, her way of expressing it was to read out all the charges one by one and make them like sit through the whole damn thing over and over, and to give every single person their say. Like, she did get to express her disgust, but in a more in a way that couldn't be used for appeal. Let's just say that.
She's a different breed. And I think you got to also remember that Darrell Brooks, as disgusting as his name is to say, was not a friend of the court. He wasn't a friend of the community.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very different man to who Alex Murdaugh was believed to be.
Yeah. No.
And I get what you're saying as well. That yes, the judge should be acting 100% professional throughout that entire thing. But I don't think it's going to reflect bad. I think, obviously, Harpoolian and the other insert derogatory name there, are going to appeal no matter what. And I think the judge knows exactly. I think the judge knows that they are going to appeal, and that they're going to use any means necessary. So I actually think this is a strategic move by the judge, because if it's the judge who they focus on as the unfair party, they have a hell of a lot of trial to look at and a hell of a lot of evidence to look at. That's not even the judge. So while the judge, by the letter of the law, may have stepped outside a little bit, it's enough that the appeal that they make might actually work in the judge's favor, due to the fact that they might forget about the rest of whatever might have accidentally been said throughout the trial, and just say, oh, the judge was prejudicial. And
you know what? If we were dealing with people that aren't lawyers, I'd agree with you. But there's no way a lawyer forgot anything that happened in that trial when it comes to appeal. That I will say, like, because appeal briefs are like hundreds of pages long record, and they happen to go cover the whole trial. Like, I wish it was the way you're saying, that it was just person to person. You know what I mean? And I actually wish I could go back in time to the days I looked at trials the way you are right now, just as a person with not knowing what these lawyers are actually going to do. Because actually it's going to be a paperwork nightmare. They're going to actually go over every single one of the judge's objections, and whether every single one of his rulings, every objection that was done in there. It's going to be tete-a-tete, back and forth, because as we just saw, there was no remorse in Alex Murdaugh. He still insists he didn't do it. He still insists he's an innocent man, and he's going to fight tooth and nail legally, like the lawyer, the manipulative lawyer, con man that he was. He's going to keep it right here in the system, doing it. And he has access to the money, because through conservatorship, as long as he's fighting something legally, he can get the money to do it. Through that, he has to go through the court. But, the estate has the conservators protecting it, but because of all the other lawsuits, but he can still, because it's legal funds, he has access to it. And I think that's part of what the judge was reacting to, that this is going to be a cycle that goes on and on and on. I just hate that they're going to be doing that to the judge. So maybe, in a way, you're right. He just did it so that, like, they're going to do it anyway. He might as well say what he's got to say. Get it out there and do it, because they do often, like Brooks. I mean, the judge was very hard on Brooks, but she did it like in a different way. She did it in a different way at the end.
Goodness gracious.
I think the next real question is going to be, when are we going to see him next?
Well, the judge did speak, like they were going to go to chambers and talk about that, but he wasn't letting either one of the sides of the lawyers out of the courtroom right away. They were going to spend the rest of the day going over scheduling. And because he said that Harpoolian's the main attorney for Murdaugh still in all the financial crimes also. And it should be noted that Creighton Waters is the prosecutor heading those too. The same ones that were there for the murder are going to be there for all of the financials. It was A.G. Wilson that finally decided to charge him with the murder a year or so in 2022. Remember, he was already sitting in jail based on the indictments for the financial crimes. Because he couldn't make the bail for it, because they've seized all his assets based on everything else,
Liam, I believe Buster is going to be going to what he would consider a poorhouse from all of the damages that's been caused.
Mm-hmm.
The family will take care of Buster. Don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, but he'll never see the same lifestyle again.
Well, that's to be determined.
If he's in that profession. If he actually does continue in that profession, because
would you? I wouldn't want to have that last name and then go into being a lawyer. Nope.
Yeah.
Well, his uncle is a lawyer. His other uncle runs a business. They have family. Don't forget, there's still people in that law firm that the great grandfather started, even though they renamed it and took the Murdaugh name off of it. A Murdaugh is still in there, okay? I don't think the family, as entrenched as the family is into the actual reputation and everything that's going on around the trial, the drama and all of that. I don't really think it's fair that the rest of them suffer so unduly because of something Alex did. Randy Murdaugh, his brother, didn't steal a dime.
No, I don't think they should either.
Right.
And actually, Randy Murdaugh is probably the most innocent out of all of them, because he's the guy who owns the tractor.
No, that's John Marvin.
Oh, no, that's John Marvin.
Yeah, John Marvin is
no. Randy Murdaugh is the lawyer. Randy Murdaugh was also in the solicitor lately. He's also part of that court system. Remember, they were solicitors and prosecutors before they went into practice. Actually, they did more private practice doing civil lawsuits than anything. That's been the Murdaugh way to mean. They actually sue based on wrongful products, wrongful death, accidents, anything, equipment fails, there's a product that's not right. That's how they made their money. Okay, those kind of lawsuits. And I'll tell you an interesting story that they started all these with the great-great-grandfather based on a train accident. That and the rumor has it that train accident wasn't actually an accident. That he was actually, not going to want to continue. Let's put it that way. And it all started there. That actually that didn't end up happening because of the way the train accident happened, and they actually are suing the train company for the failure of it. And that's where a lot of the money came from, all the way back then. Just a mishap situation, and then being opportunistic enough to turn it into a dynasty. And, there's been nothing but black clouds that have followed this family. If you know the Murdaughs, then you're entrenched in drama, murder, and somewhat nefarious deeds. We have how many deaths surrounding Alex Murdaugh in general? And Christopher, you don't know this part. There's only this murder trial, but he actually had his housekeeper die on his premises. And then sued his own insurance company, his own homeowner's insurance, for her children, got a great settlement of $4.3 million, and then stole it from those kids, gave them $100,000 and walked away with the rest. They actually heard about the settlement in social media. He never even told them he won the case.
Yeah, he lied about it for 2 years. And by the way, one of the sons is disabled.
Yeah, who takes care of the other one, and the younger one,
the one that's takes care of his brother. Yeah,
and the one that's looking after him is also clearly on the spectrum of some sort.
I wouldn't diagnose him, but I would say that he
or at least he's
trusted. He was actually very trusting. He was very trusting of Alex and believed everything he said. Never even questioned that he would be stolen from.
Well, he knew him for a bit naive since he was a child, little boy. Why wouldn't he trust him?
Exactly.
That's how he got most of those people.
Yeah.
They knew him so long they thought he was safe to trust.
Yeah. But Christopher, can you believe that? Like, that's just one piece. That's just one. And that case is being reopened.
Oh, and they ended up.
Something's being said. Hang on, something's being said.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, it's
Oh,
the
yes,
press.
please.
Okay, here we go. Thank you. Who's that?
Who's who?
Is that SLED? Is this about the case? I don't. Oh wait, yes, that's Owens in the wait. Yeah, that's Nigofsky. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, looks like it. Yeah, those were all the guys that came up shaking everybody's hands and stuff,
Mhm.
and giving Waters hugs and congratulating them and stuff.
Yep, Colin, that's SLED. Yes, what I just said. I recognize Rudolphy. I recognize a couple of the Owens. I recognize a few
Everybody give
of
me a
them.
thumbs up.
Hmm.
My name is Mark Keel, and I'm chief of the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, otherwise known as SLED. For those of y'all in the local media, you know I don't do very many press conferences. I've been chief of SLED for 12 years, and I've only done 2. The last one I did was in June of 21 to talk about significant violent crime that's just been unprecedented in our state. But today it's important for me to speak out. It's important because of the victims in this case. It's important because Maggie and Paul cannot. I want to make one thing clear to everybody. There are no winners today. I have a truly humbling responsibility as being chief of SLED. I lead a dedicated and professional group of investigators, forensic scientists, and support personnel. A staff that work day in and day out for days just like today to bring justice for victims. And today is not the end. It's the next step in a long road to justice for every person who has been victimized by Alex Murdaugh. Alex Murdaugh has now been rightfully found guilty of murdering his wife, Maggie, and Paul. He was found guilty because he was guilty. And as one of the witnesses said, Paul was a little detective. This case serves notice to anyone who aided or assisted Alex Murdaugh in committing any crime that justice will be sought. This was an incredible effort by SLED, our local and federal partners, and our partners at the Attorney General's office. And I want to thank Attorney General Wilson and all of his prosecutors, paralegals, and all of his support personnel as well. They did a fantastic job. The agents and prosecutors who work this case have sacrificed countless moments from their own families to ensure that a person responsible for the murders of Maggie and Paul was fairly tried and brought to justice. The people who work this case do it because they are called to serve. They do it to bring a voice to the voiceless. And they're dedicated public servants. And for that, I'm grateful. SLED agents have worked tirelessly for the past 21 months to ensure justice was served for Maggie and Paul. It is impossible for most people to understand the countless hours of hard work that went into this case. Time away from families, missed birthdays, missed holidays. And it is all done under constant scrutiny constant pressure. I want these folks standing behind me and around me to know how incredibly proud I am of him as Chief of SLED. I believe firmly in this criminal justice system that we have. And I believe in the rights of an accused to have a fair trial. That is why I have remained silent from beginning this case until now. Again, today, I'm here to provide a voice for Maggie and Paul. I'm here to recognize the heart-wrenching journey that family and friends of Maggie and Paul have endured. And I'm here to support and thank again this incredible team of agents, forensic scientists, support personnel that work at SLED and that worked on this case. Yesterday and today, justice has been served. Thank you.
I wonder if I can catch it before the.
Well said.
Did anyone else notice what he said?
What do you mean?
Well, hold on. Let me just make sure that nobody else is coming before the leprechaun shows up. I'll just mute the tab. Okay, we can see. Like we can watch it from below. Record. What do you mean? What he said? Like.
If anyone else who was involved.
Oh yes.
I may be paraphrasing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he said that. Yeah, he did say that if anybody else is involved, that they will be found and taken care of.
Yeah,
basically.
I think they haven't taken off the multiple shooter theory off the table by saying that.
Oh, I don't. I think it has more to do with the financial crimes and the people that helped with all the banks and the that knew about it. I think that really what they're looking at is 20 years worth of crime that it was impossible for no one to know about. And also the people that wouldn't come forward and testify that had good information, they just refused to be involved because it was the family. I think what they're doing is drawing a line and saying, yes, the Murdaughs are really legally in this system and they're really good friends with everybody in law enforcement, but we're drawing a line like it's not happening. Family or not, friend or not, law is law. I think it was a standard statement, actually. But here's the thing. You have to remember, although we all believe that there was tons of circumstantial evidence here that absolutely indicated his guilt. And I'm one of you guys. Absolutely. I think he's guilty. I do. But my part of the guilt wasn't so much on the evidence that they had, but what was missing. And Alex's own words. Okay. But when it comes to the original indictment, remember, there's still the problems they have that some people who actually have a great passion for the law, some of my own friends, okay, believe that that indictment was granted by the grand jury under false pretenses, that they stretched the truth and lied to get an indictment. And even if he is guilty, and even if he did do the crime, that would not be appropriate, and that would still need to be addressed. And that's part of the problem with the case going forward, is that it was tainted from the start. Okay, so it gives the opposite side, it gives the defense or the accused plenty to work with, whether they're guilty or not. And that okay. I just got a flashing that the host record. Did you mute something like the whole screen, or I don't know?
I just muted the audio.
Oh, okay. The one down below? Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I was just confused. It just startled me because this big thing flashed across my screen, like literally across the whole screen. Like I was like, "Whoop!" But it just there's going to be so much more that it's not, just SLED. SLED has actually taken quite a few hits here, mostly in regards to some of the testing that was done on what they thought was blood splatter on the shirt. They actually thought they had nailed him because the shirt was full of blood, and it wasn't. Okay, whatever that testing was, there's still questions. I mean, I have always wanted to ask both of you, and even perhaps Christopher, since he's here. But you have that shirt with all those blood splatters on it, right? And we get a presumptive test of positive, and then all of a sudden, extenuating circumstances happen. They put the stuff on it. They don't test it in time. There's the question of that. Like, how do professionals not? How do you set up an examination on a piece of evidence and then not get back to it in time?
I'm pretty sure that person was asked that same question.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I smell shenanigans. Okay, but here's
no, I
yeah.
don't think it's shenanigans at all. I think it's just sheer negligence.
Yeah, I think they just
something like that doesn't happen. Okay, so it's either one of two things. It's either negligence due to inexperience of whoever was doing the testing. I believe, if I remember correctly, the person who was doing the testing is a pretty fresh-faced person. Or intentional bad actor.
That's what I'm thinking too. This is where, because everybody's so connected, remember how many people Alex Murdaugh had been paying to keep things quiet in law enforcement all along? And was he actually connected in SLED also? We don't know. And is that why they keep pushing forward to it on all of the things that happened there? That they were prejudiced against this, that, or the other thing, because he knows it's possible, because there have been rumors that he's been doing it all along, greasing palms and moving things forward. Because here's the thing. Also, the report that came through that said it was negative, there was a lot of 15 stains on this t-shirt. Okay, but all of a sudden aren't blood anymore.
So here's what I believe is the general process of that kind of thing. Once you've taken a presumptive test and you have that stain sample, that presumptively is a positive, you
she totally explained that whole process to it. That part I get, Record. Like, not that I mean to interrupt you, but I don't want you to go through the whole thing. That I actually clearly understand the process of what happened.
I'm just
what I'm
pulling it into
insinuating,
people.
I'm actually insinuating that report is that they purposely flubbed that report. The whole process was, she said she put the chemical on it, right? They didn't get back to it in time, so they couldn't read it properly. But then they went back to it later, cut all those spots out, all 15 of them, used a different process that just looks for blood. Okay, and every single spot came back negative. Every single one. There was never any blood there.
Well,
is what they're saying.
The problem is that a lot of those chemicals, if used in the wrong amounts, will actually bring up a false negative, because it is essentially a destructive test. As I was going to say, generally, from what I remember, is that they take a specific sample from part of the shirt. They do the presumptive test. If the test comes back to be a presumption of yes, then they will take a sample that is close to or around the same area. They will cut it in half. They'll do a presumptive test on one half, and then they will do a more accurate test on the other.
Yeah, but that's the part where they didn't do it. They sprayed the whole damn shirt instead.
Yeah. Because they actually likely sprayed too much of whatever chemical they decided to use, whether the ethyl, I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah.
It would have actually destroyed any DNA or
that's
any.
The thing. That was the pretrial hearing on the evidence. Harpoolian went hard on it. to try to get it all removed because he was right. They don't get to test it anymore. It's damaged. All they have is the preliminary reports by the experts. They fought really hard to get everything excluded. But in that case, Judge Newman in the pretrial hearing said, we'll let the evidence come through should the prosecution decide to submit it, because they do have an expert that said there was a presumptive, because what they were trying to do is preserve the indictment. Because if that shirt was removed and it was one of the pieces of evidence that actually secured the indictment with the grand jury. Remember, they didn't have very much when they went to the grand jury. Did they have a weapon? No. Did they even know at that point what the weapon, as much as they do now? They didn't have a weapon. They didn't have anything. They thought they had a bloody shirt. They thought they had him presumably within a reasonable amount of time that the crime was committed, that he was on the location, and that he was the one that found the bodies. It was all speculative, Without that shirt, they had nothing physical, did they?
Yeah, and this is where I kind of think Judge Newman actually quite intelligently let his bias come through, because I kind of think Judge Newman knew he did it, but because the evidence that was available was so tainted, he had to figure out a way to let it through without prejudice being an obvious reason. Because
well,
he was
go ahead, Beck.
I'm going to tell you, Record, I've been watching the feed that has like 3 different cameras on it. And every time I've seen him, he'll like look around the courtroom real pleasantly, just with that typical Judge Newman face. And then he'd get to the defense table and he would just stare at him for a minute.
Yeah.
And I noticed that on like the 5th day that he was doing that. I think he was convinced within the first few days that.
Right. Well, can you imagine being a judge and having like people totally disrespect the process and the law? How many times did Harpootlian just try to tell him what to do based on his own schedule? Like, I'm a big deal, dude. You need to do whatever I want. Like, Harpootlian's entitlement was dripping. Like,
it was.
When he said you gotta like please interrupt the prosecution's closing statements because I've got people I'm holding up in a hotel and I don't want to pay for the weekend if I don't have to. Like, could you break it up? Like, let me go in between. Can we speak in between? Can we bring our people in between while he's
ridiculous.
Still going? Like, which is unheard of. Like, unheard of. I was just like, what did you just just really? Wow.
Yeah, I think a lot of those smiles that Judge Newman had after Harpootlian or the other guy
Griffin
spoke up, Griffin spoke up or interjected or whatever, they weren't smiles of amusement. They were smiles of, you're just digging yourself a further grave with me. You're not going to get any leniency from me. This is my trial. You're going to play by my rules.
It's true. And the reason we're all like bringing it up is because this isn't like, I guess my point being, it's not over, because there's still dissension about the original indictment itself, which is a grand open, a wide door for appeal right there. And then there was, as we saw, a lot of the shenanigans. Christopher didn't get to see the trial day to day, but there was quite a bunch of shenanigans that went on back and forth, especially in the complaint of not allowing the 404B testimony in, and then actually opening the door themselves on multiple occasions for testimony to come in. Beck, I do see that. If you go to, we're not going to go too much longer anyway.
Yeah. I'm going to take off. But I just want to thank everybody again. Thanks, Claire. Thanks, Wrecker. Mouty, it was great seeing you, buddy. I hope to see you more.
Coming.
Great seeing you.
And thanks all the chat for the great conversations and the humor when we needed it, and having such awesome thoughts about this whole trial. I really enjoyed it. So,
well,
I'll
Beck,
see you guys on the next one.
I hope so. It won't be a live trial, but you're always welcome. The regular shows that come, you should be there
Oh, I
on
appreciate
some
that.
of that. There's so much more we're covering, like next week. Next week I've got to do at least 3 shows just to catch up on all the stuff that I put aside just to cover this, like as well
Cool.
as we did every day. So
I look
I'm
forward
looking
to
to
it.
the highlight
yeah,
reel.
you're a true crime buff for sure. Like I enjoy having you in the Discord with the conversation. That'd be great. So hopefully we
Yeah.
haven't seen
All right.
the last year then. But thanks.
Mm.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
All right,
care,
you
you
Beck.
so
beautiful
much,
people.
Beck.
I'll see y'all
Yeah.
soon. Peace out.
Great seeing you.
Mhm.
Bye.
You too.
Mm. Well, I hear your point there, Recker, about like the testing and all, but the point I was making is about the appeal. They were real clear about how they did it and why they messed it up. I just think that there was just, I don't know, maybe it's just
It seems a bit
jaded.
fishy to me.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. It seems fishy because no respectable lab technician makes that kind of mistake.
Well, but it does happen. I mean, it
No, I'm
does,
not saying
but
it doesn't
yeah.
happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. But when you're dealing with a case of this caliber,
Mm-hmm.
it is specific. It is either specifically said or implied that you take the utmost care, you take the utmost precaution to make sure that you dot your I's, you cross your T's, and you put that little curl on the G that just makes everything fit together perfectly. Because anything that gives that man a chance, who, as far as we know now, to be guilty, to fight, is it shouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't happen. It just should not.
But it's kind of like Murphy's Law. I guess I'm a little jaded. Like I would expect, the bigger the case, the bigger the error. The bigger the opportunity to make the biggest guffaw. When the pressure is
Yeah,
on and all of that. And also, like, let's be honest. How big did they know that case was when they had? You know what? That technician doesn't know who the heck they're dealing with. Their record. They have no idea what case. How
And
big
I'm
that
wondering
case
whether or
is.
not the technician was blinded as
Yeah.
to the samples.
They could have
I
been.
mean,
Could have been.
I work
Yeah.
in a lab, but I don't work in that kind of lab. But it
Mm-hmm.
would seem that like being blinded to what you're looking at and all you're doing is matching or not matching or just doing the
Mm-hmm.
analysis.
Yeah. They don't understand the importance. Every piece of evidence in a lab is important. They don't know the case. They don't know the players. They don't know any of that. Unless, of course, their hands were greased. Like, I'm still not letting go of that insinuation. Yeah, I said it.
I
I really do think that there was some shenanigans going on, because there were shenanigans going on everywhere, and they have it documented and proved, and it does go to a course of pattern of the way things were happening. But whether it was naivety or a mistake or whatever it was, it did happen, and it's part of the indictment. And my only point is that makes it really wide open for appeal just on that. And also to let you all know, some of the discussion that the discerning voices you hear out there against the guilty verdict are on the fact that they feel due process in the legal system has been violated away, because you can't bring a man to trial on a faulty indictment and then have a guilty plea and have that just stand. Like, there's going to be pushback. There are plenty of voices out there already on it, and simply because that's our legal process.
and they are justified voices
It's like
in a respect.
Yeah. So that's, just to bring that side of it, because I always like to do that. As much as everyone could say I was leaning towards the prosecution, I owned that. I said absolutely I am, from everything that I seen. But I'm just somebody who likes true crime. I'm not in the legal system. I don't have to be completely unbiased. I definitely, but I also want to bring the other side of it, because that's only fair. and there has been problems all along. And I'm not bashing, anybody in the South Carolina legal system at all. SLED, they all did wonderful job that they did, but they cannot ignore that there were issues there, because they're going to come up in appeal. They're going to come up over and over again in appeal. And I think that is part of the disgust that we saw from Judge Newman, is that he knows this is ever going. It is like they're on a wheel like a rat and they can't get off, because Alex Murdaugh is not going to confess, and he's not going to let them off. He's going to fight this tooth and nail.
And not to get too caught up in the weeds, but isn't there also a hypothesis going around that this may be due to a drug-like cartel of some sort?
Yeah, that's
framing him.
That's kind of far-fetched. That really, but yes, I've heard that. I saw it all over social media actually, that they're wondering if that's where part of the money went, like, and the amount of money. But I think if he was involved in drugs like that, he wouldn't have had to steal from the clients. So obviously, he would have been making money hand over fist, because in South Carolina, the need for opiate type pills that he was taking is paramount. It was one of the bigger areas for addiction, and that would have been a profitable business in its own. That rumor's coming right out of the Eddie Smith trial. I'll tell you guys that right now, that Eddie Smith does deal drugs. That's his cousin. That's where Alex Murdaugh got his drugs. That's the man he hired for $2 million to shoot him in the head, who backed out 2 months after this murder, when he said that he wanted to actually not be around anymore, and so that Buster could collect life insurance in order to keep his lifestyle and be secure. That was a whole big thing, but that was all orchestrated by Alex Murdaugh also. And that could be Eddie Smith throwing Alex under the bus and trying to make a peacock statement, so to speak, for his 15 minutes, because now the spotlight's on him, in his trial, and trying to get also the prosecution. Look at it. If I was Eddie Smith, I'd be throwing stuff like that out there to try to get the prosecution to make a deal with me to get a lighter sentence. Why should Alex get away with everything? Like, of course he's going to, do this kind of stuff. But there's been no credible evidence of that, except for he's got a low-life criminal cousin that he deals with. That's the evidence of this big mafia drug thing that's going on with Alex Murdaugh.
Okay.
It's his cousin. He's sitting in jail right now, that they both filed affidavits against each other, pointing fingers at each other for everything. It's ridiculous. But it's so convoluted. Kim brings to mind for me again that we have to remember the loss of Mallory Beach, the young girl who died in the boating incident. The death of her, the anniversary of the boating incident was just a week ago. Her death. She was so young. That case is still going on civilly. There'll be no criminal charges because Paul's dead. Although obstruction charges for the actual investigation could still be filed against Alex Murdaugh, and probably will be. Mark Tinsley, as a lawyer, is all over that. He feels the family hasn't been represented. He feels that Alex Murdaugh's behavior in regards to the whole incident has been obnoxious, and he's fighting it tooth and nail. And he kind of feels the attitude we saw from Mark Tinsley, the attorney, is the same one we just saw of Judge Newman on the stand. As a matter of fact, it just hit me. The absolute disgust at someone from the legal professional acting this way and making them all look bad. Someone well connected in their own legal community as a professional, just basically pissing on their profession and their reputations. And they all are acting highly offended and with great pushback, and I can't blame them. Now, I'm kind of seeing that now with Judge Newman, the same attitude that Mark Tinsley had on the stand, dripping in disgust for the accused.
And not unjustly either.
Not when you consider there's the death of Mallory Beach. There's the
No.
investigation, the death of Stephen Smith, the death of Gloria Satterfield. Okay. The hundreds of clients that he stole from, his own partners in his law firm that he stole from, his best friend, Chris Wilson, let's not forget, who had to take the stand and say, he actually stole from me too. He used
Yeah.
me to as a cover story. And then, you know, just too much, you know. His sister-in-law who took the stand and said, you know, we didn't want to believe it, but when all he talked about was the Mallory Beach case, the boating incident, instead of who killed Maggie and Paul, it was like he already knew who did it because he wasn't looking for the killers. But at the same time, if anybody asked him, he was telling law enforcement that they were also threatened by people coming at them. And yet they never asked for protective services. He never got any kind of protection for Buster or his mother or his father or anybody else involved in his family. But he wants to sit on the stand and say that he was threatened. He was afraid for his life, and he thinks that this whole thing was retaliation against him for the Mallory Beach incident, you know, for the boating accident. The jury didn't buy it. You know, they just didn't buy it. And that was a risk in general, just to even take that stand. I think it was like a Hail Mary once they found that video, because Christopher, all along, he denied being at the scene right before the murders, but his son made a Snapchat video of a dog he was taking care of that clearly puts him right there at the, like, within minutes of the murder. His voice is on tape on his son's phone. His phone.
Well, he was professing his innocence.
For a year and a half. Yeah.
That is the keystone. I personally believe the keystone that actually got him.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for that video, we'd be looking at a very different trial.
Mm-hmm. And actually, Kim reminds me that they did actually offer them protection, and that speaks loudly to me that when they were offered protection at the time of the murders and everything, he declined. Everybody, they declined protective measures. So if you're really afraid that somebody's coming after you, why would you do that? You know. This is why I say his own actions is what did it for me. That moved me from just being completely neutral on it to actually thinking he's 100% guilty. But I never did think they had enough evidence to convict him. I'm still surprised, actually, about the guilty verdict. I really am. How fast they came back, I never expected that. If you remember that day, Wrecker, wasn't I advocating for it? No, they'll take their time. It's got to be at least a day. Even if they're short, they got to dot their I's and cross their T's. They'll be back Friday morning. Yeah.
I remember you even saying that if they come back early, the judge was going to send them away.
He should
and
have.
say, check it out again.
That's another thing. I'm surprised he didn't send them back, but they did it. They said right away, we have a unanimous vote immediately. There's no reason for deliberation. When they said unanimous with no dissent, I mean, what's he going to do? Tell them, no, you don't know. It would have looked prejudicial. You know, they're going to try to say it looks prejudicial this way, but it would actually be prejudicial the other way. It would be like you're telling them they don't know their own mind, or they're not telling you what you want to hear. You know what I mean? Like, so what's he going to do? You know, I think if they came, when I made that statement, was if they came to him within hours and said, we're hung, there's no way we're going to decide. He would say, you haven't only spent 4 hours deliberating. You need to go back. You need to at least give it another day and try to talk to each other, because that would be fair justice. That's what I meant. Not if they have a unanimous. If they have a unanimous agreement, that's it. It's done. It's over. You know how hard it is to get, help me out here, Christopher. How hard is it to get 12 people to agree about anything, let alone a charge?
I always tell people who talk about oh crap. Yeah. I had a point there.
That's okay. Let Christopher. I want to hear what Christopher has to say about that, because it's true. You can't get people to decide the same thing about anything.
Consensus building is very difficult. I mean, especially like maybe a little bit easier if it's a group of people that have a common goal that they volunteered for, right? Whereas this is a jury, they volunteer to be in jury duty, not really voluntary, kind of it's a civic duty, right? So it's not the same thing. So there might be people on the jury that just have completely different ways of approaching things than you and just trying to corral. I mean, that's the most important part of politics, right? When you're in Congress, your ability to whip votes, which is essentially corralling people to consensus, is one of the most difficult processes that exists. So, I mean, 12 people, shit, 3 people. You know, I've been in bands before where it's just me and 2 other people and we can't fucking hash anything out. Pardon my language.
I know.
I think that's
Takes
just
all
about
week to do
bands
the
anyway.
playlist. Yeah, all week just to get a playlist out, right? No, I agree. I agree. But thanks on the because it is true that a lot of the
And wait a
lawyers
second, I just want to make
channels.
sure that everybody knows that the answer to all questions, whether it's a 3-piece band or whether it's a jury, is there's always room for more bass solos.
Yes.
From the
Yes,
bassist.
there is.
I'm totally
From the
unbiased.
bassist. He's totally unbiased, but he's an excellent bassist, by the way.
I'm not unbiased. I'm a guitarist, so
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm on your side. The
Yeah.
bass is the heart of the
This is
band.
consensus building. You're seeing it happen in real time.
Yeah, see
You're
that?
making it look easy, but it's not.
Exactly. And I'm
No,
just sitting
actually,
here
in the
fascinated.
background, I'm currently cussing him out.
Listen, actually, I'm quite flattered to talk legal with 2 musicians. This is
One's gonna have
weird.
an attitude next rehearsal. Oh man,
Yeah.
It is. But
And then the drummer's gonna be drunk and probably have
God,
another.
that's redundant.
Yeah, that's you know what? Why is that? Why is the drummer always drunk?
No,
You know,
no, the drummer is
shade
always
drummers,
either
but,
drunk or in prison for assault.
Oh, stop!
Tell me I'm wrong.
You playing, brother?
Just stop! Oh my God! But yeah, I think that everybody agrees it is difficult. It is very difficult, and everybody also agrees that most of the legal channels out there were saying if they come back quick, it's definitely going to be guilty because that is the way it goes. Once they decide guilty, if you get that's it. If you get most of them, they come back quick. They want it over and done with. They're not going to sit around, for sure. I'm looking for questions in the chat because I don't want to leave anything undone before we end for the day. And then I want to ask Christopher if there's anything you want to ask us about this case, besides taking the whole rest of the week to tell you about it. Just right now, if you have any questions in what you saw or what you've heard.
All right. So clarify for me what his motive was for killing his wife and son.
Basically, the state laid out the premise, and there's one video you could watch. It's 2.5 hours, my gosh, but it has a great power presentation in there from the state. Creighton Waters closing statement basically tied it together as this. It was a hailstorm. It was a coming storm of all the financial charges that were going to be coming at him. Alex is actually the one who knows everything he's done. But it was coming to light. The morning of the murder, he had a meeting at his partnership where the chief financial officer says, I have evidence you've been stealing from us. He then had a conversation with his friend Christopher Wilson, who said, your partnership is telling me that I actually have the money from our last legal thing and I don't. Like, what's going on? So now he knows his friend is also onto it. Okay. There are rumors that week that Paul is going for indictment on the boat incident charges, and everything's going to come to light in regards to the investigation and what Alex may or may not have done in regards to keeping the charges from being filed for over 2 years. Okay. There was going to be financial discovery in that boating incident civil suit. The hearing was 2 days away on the 10th. And that at that point, with financial discovery, all his bank accounts would become known. And he had bank accounts with stolen money in both Maggie's name and in company names that he doesn't own, that he's just using their name fraudulently. Bank personnel are going to get in trouble. There was a lot going on. Also, there were text messages from the son saying that the wife had found his stash of pills and that they all knew he was taking pills again, and there was family dissension. There was also rumors that, actually not rumors, but a proven fact that Maggie herself had a appointment with an appraiser for some of the properties that are only in her name, and that if she's thinking of leaving him and selling these properties, he's now going to be in debt for $10 million, because those are the properties that secure the house of cards, so to speak, that he has created with all the banks. He had multiple loans in multiple banks with the same assets, well over $10 million or so, that would become due just if she listed the property. There was a lot. But basically,
so here's what I heard this morning from my wife. She's like, yes, somebody at work is really following this. And he's saying, so here's what I heard. And tell me if this fits into a portion of what you said, kind of, I think, taps into this. There was an accident on his property and he tried to cover it up, and his wife and son were against covering it up, so he killed them.
You know what? That is one of the popular things. I do think that is the conversation that happened during that week. I think Maggie may have been pushing Paul to just come clean that he was the driver of the boat. Paul didn't want to go through a long trial and he wanted to just settle because there's a civil suit. Maggie was talking to people. There was testimony that said that she wanted a less of a lifestyle rather than to go through this stress. She said clearly, we could do with less. It's not about the money. We just need to stick together, do with less, and get this over with. But Alex wanted to fight. Alex wanted to be right no matter what. No one's winning. No one's taking my money. I'll say what I want. I'll do what I want. He pretended to be a police officer whenever he wanted. Right there at the boating accident, when everybody was in the hospital and Mallory Beach was still missing, he was walking around the hallways with a badge hanging out of his pocket, trying to get in to see everybody who was on the boat to actually qualify their testimony, to actually try to get everybody to say that Connor was driving instead of Paul, to actively protect Paul from any criminal charges. He was doing it from the moment he found out about it. And they documented it all. So your wife is right. It was about the boating accident. The internal pressure amongst the three of them was about the boating incident. Absolutely. We don't know where Paul was on that because all of Paul's friends testified, but did not say Paul discussed the boating accident with them at all, ever. It was all inside in the family. So we probably will never know those conversations. But in order for a family annihilator, and I did talk to a forensic psychologist about this, Chris. So that actual interview you might find actually entertaining. We talked about family annihilators and how a white man of privilege, this way, right age, looking at having himself discredited in public, may actually get there and be able to kill his family, because he could absolutely love them to death and still get there, because he doesn't want to look at the disgrace in their eyes when when everything comes to light. These people he loved more than anything, he may feel that he is actually protecting them from the church,
end product
from the truth, right?
Yeah, public national shaming,
exactly,
instead of like a local, county or state, reputation of shame.
A whole family dynasty being tarnished completely. That's a lot of pressure. And
social dynamics are what they are. There is no dedicated amount of time that that will that has to pass for society to accept them again. Like it depends on what goes on a case-by-case basis. So
on that point, I think that's why he's fighting against the murder and will not confess, because that's the last bit of his they may have nailed him on all of the financial stuff. He knows that the figures speak for themselves, the paperwork trail. But as far as his reputation, he's not letting them call him a murderer. I think that's it. Like that's his ground. That's the hill he's going to stand on, whether he's guilty or not. He's not letting them do it.
All right. So devil's advocate, you don't think it's because he's genuinely innocent and it's going to come in the next decade?
I do not, and you want to know why? Here's if all right, I'll give you this, and your wife may agree. If he's not the murderer, he knows who it is because there's no way he wasn't right there. Because we have him right there within minutes of the murder. We also know that he's the only one that had the access to the murder scene before, during, and after. The only person. We also know there is absolutely not one scrap of evidence of any other person coming on the property. The dogs were not upset at all that anybody else was there. And Alex himself said, why would the dogs be upset? There was nobody around they didn't know. Okay, so like we have his own words there. We also know that the murder weapons were Murdaugh property. They proved that actually ballistically, that those two guns, we're pretty sure who they are, and we do know they're missing. We do know that Alex had access to them because they know where they were in his proximity within 24 hours of the murder. We know that he was right there. We know he changed his story. We know he will not provide the clothes he was actually wearing that day. He changed his clothes 3 times and he only submitted 1 outfit to them. We have visual documentation by video and the witnesses of the maids, the housekeeper rather, and actually another video that Paul took that earlier that day he was wearing a certain outfit. Whatever happened was some type of confrontation. There was a hose right there. He did wash off, I do believe. And the fact that there's no DNA, any other footprints, or any other evidence of anybody else clearly indicates that the only person in control of the scene and in control of the time frame was Alex Murdaugh. There's really no one else, Chris. No one else it could have been. Because it wasn't suicide murder because the guns are missing. You know, they don't get up and walk away.
I'm curious to hear what Shanna has to say, because she only works a half day today, and it's the physical therapist that she works with that is totally deep into this. So I'm curious now that the verdict has come down.
Please come and tell me. Please come and tell me, because I think it's all about, and I would like to know this. For me, it was about the missing, the type of evidence that's missing. The actual weapons and all of the DNA on him, because a lawyer would know that they need that, right? And the fact that it's his own statements and what he did to secure his own alibi and the statements that he made that actually convicted him, in my eyes, is as far as guilty. Not so much all of the other little things they had to put together for the jury.
I'll definitely tell you the dinner table conversation.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so sure. Are you going to be back doing that, by the way, on soon, anytime soon? I know you've been really hella busy.
To the swing of things, but it's just it's going to take a hot second.
Yeah. No, well, I'm sure people have been missing it. It's been great. I only just recently found your little family and dinner table, but I have to say those conversations are pretty lit. They're the kind of stuff I really dig.
I'm glad you dig. It's just like an open door. Talk about catching up. It's just catching up with friends. It's all about the connection.
I love it. For those of you not familiar, I will be actually, because Chris came up here, he'll be linked below later. But if you would like to check that out, he actually cooks while he talks to everybody about everything that's going on or anything you want to. He's a musician and an excellent foodie. Like, that's what I wanted to talk to you about food. I think that's the first thing that I said to you when we met on the Shills, is that, wow, you're from Jersey? You like food? We need to talk. We need to talk. Because I really have this thing about how we use food as a language. I really do, because I'm a language phobe too. But,
it definitely is a variable in social cohesion.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Breaking bread with somebody. It's just that social experience.
In the way that we use it to take care of people and to express our love and our feelings, or how it is. And then just talking about food, how you can bring a whole bunch of people together. Like, it's amazing.
Right. If you were to listen to conversations with like when I go visit my family, it is about food. What are we going to cook? What have you cooked? What have you eaten that's been good? What are we going to have this weekend? It's just like, it's always about food, and it's like, okay, what version of that do you want to make? Are you going to put that in it? Oh, blah, 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 blah. I just never realized it until recently, how much, like, to your point, talking about food, of course, cooking together as a process, eating together. It's just it's magic.
It is. It is. It's
And
just.
you can't completely simulate that online. I do my damn best to make a virtual version of that.
You do good. And I have to say that the people around you too, because the minute I showed up, people were giving me recipes and everything. Like we were sharing email addresses and I'm getting these great risotto recipes. Like it was lit. It was like the best place to be. I was like, wow, this is like all the things that I love, like in one place. There was music, there was great conversation, and there was food.
Like, did Fabio give you his pumpkin risotto recipe?
He didn't give me the pumpkin one, but he gave me like, he has a pumpkin one. Oh, damn. I have to get back. Fabio. Oh, Fabio, you better get back in touch with me. I need the pumpkin one. Oh, I love pumpkin. Oh, I have a pumpkin curry that you would just like die for. It's unbelievable.
I dig that. But yeah, to your point, just making sure that there's a place outside of the octagon, because it seems like the internet just inherently by default is argumentative and somewhat toxic. So,
and I have to say, true to course for that, that's been my experience out here. It hasn't always been a pleasant experience out here for me, but I have not wavered on the thing where I won't take sides. I am for all of it, all of the conversation on all of the sides, period. Like I don't want to go there. It's not about where you hang or what you do. It's about the conversations and the discussions. That's why I started my channel, and I'm just going to keep doing it. It is rough, so that's why I admire what you're doing.
Well, that's why I'm going to get back to it, because I started doing it. So I'm very selfish. I use the internet for very selfish reasons.
Me too.
Crave that social connection. And so I built a Discord and a YouTube channel and friends in a community online that are just, all about that connection.
We are very similar that way. That's exactly why I started mine. It's exactly what I've been doing out here. I call my library the creative library because it's about sharing information. We've got editors in there, audio people that just like have all different interests, and they actually share. For small YouTuber channels, it started that way because I was just like a little bear. I still am quite small as a channel. Well, I wanted everybody like to just grow together and enjoy, use it as a hobby. I started like before the pandemic and absolutely was craving that connection with people, and still do. Everybody knows Bear loves to talk. That's all I do. Talk. It's the Jersey. Right.
Well, that's that's all the more reason like for me to get back to doing it. Like once you start, from my perspective, once I build a playground for all the things that I like to do, then they're available for me to do it. And I purposely do it for my mental health. You know what I mean? Because I like the connection and the diverse amount of people that you can talk with online. Is just like, sure, you could walk into a fill in the blank social gathering and meet a variety of people, but like online, it's, Fabio from Italy, people from the UK, and people from Australia, and people from all over the United States. So I dig that.
Yeah, no, it is absolutely. I don't. Could you do me a favor? Do you have access to type in the chat at all, the YouTube chat?
I do.
Could you do me a favor? If you do that, I can grab your channel link immediately and be able to post it there for them, to make it easier. Because when I search you, like,
it should be just like /Mowdy Man, YouTube.
It should be. I think I was going to say, is it Mowdy Man? Like it must be. It's something different than Christopher.
Did they change it recently?
They did. That's why I'm saying if you type in there, I can grab whatever they have it at now. Because
at least it does for me. So let me just throw this.
Okay, let's see.
I have this, and that is there.
Record. This is the Christopher that I talked to you about. That was the musician cook. Just so that you formally know, this is Christopher from Jersey. Actually,
it is a pleasure to meet someone who knows how to slap a bass like that.
My friend, you're speaking my language.
Do you have a lot in common, actually?
I have to ask. Do you double thump?
Oh, you have to double thump.
Oh, yes, you do. You have to.
You can no longer be a bass player that respects themselves in the style of slap without engaging in the double thump.
Oh, yeah. I have an 8-string guitar, so the double thump is just I had to learn, and it is just so good.
It is.
There's
So,
something satisfying about the sound of it.
if you want to have a private chat at some time, I have some hints for you as somebody who is familiar with slap, how to set your compression so that you get the spankiest double thump sound.
Ooh. Oh, you might actually like my one of my 8-string guitars. It's set up with 3 humbuckers, and it's set up so I can have it the pickups in single coil reverse polarity and single coil in phase, and then every single one of the pickups actually active. Yep. It has a 5-way super switch. If I showed you I'll post a photo of the wiring in Claire's Discord.
It'll be like the flux capacitor from Back to the Future, man.
It seriously, I am honestly surprised at how the guy who actually wired it up managed to get it all in there. It's an S-type Ibanez. If you know anything about them, they're thin as a they're paper thin.
I'm an Ibanez fan, so you're speaking my language again.
Yeah. Sorry, we won't hijack the stream, actually.
No, that's okay. I'm just like, I want to get everybody together because I think this is cool. Those of you who actually know me from the Discord, you know I'm in heaven right now, right? I've got food, I've got like foreign accents, I've got deep voices, and I got musicians. Like, I'm in heaven right now. Like, this is the language I want to hear. Don't mute, Marty. It's okay. Like, it's perfectly cool because these are the kind of things that I'm glad you two met. You know, I could see you over there, Wrecker. You go on camera, I can see you guys playing over risotto, and I'll just be sitting in the chat, like just fangirling, Jersey fangirling over the whole thing. But no, that's it. It is. I'm glad you're going to be getting back to it, Marty, and I'm glad we'll put your link out there and get you a few more people over there, make it a little more crowded for you, give you more to talk about. The crowds.
Yeah. The more the merrier. There's always room at my table. That's
there
what
is.
I
And I think
I cook enough so that there's always room at my table. I'll tell you what.
You do. And he's a fantastic cook too. Just talking food with him is just incredible. I could just go on for hours, but on this, because there's not a lot of questions, we've all been here the whole time. If you don't have any more questions, I think I'm going to wrap this one up.
Fair enough.
I will tell everybody that we're not done with Alex Murdaugh. I'm sorry if you're tired of hearing the name, but he's probably going to be on quite a few of my other true crime streams. We'll be catching up on the channel next week. We're bringing together the Manson case. Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell needs an update. Brian Kohlberg needs an update. And we still also have the Masterson trial starting shortly.
Is that Danny Masterson?
Yeah, I was covering Danny Masterson, and we're going for retrial. Yep. And a lot of those are not as visual as this one. They're not going to be right in the courtroom, but we're going to do it the same way as the court case progresses day by day. We'll do updates every couple of days, bring you up to date with everything that's going on. And that, like a lot of them, there's not cameras. When there is, I don't cover everything. You guys know that. I didn't do Brooks. I didn't do the other shooting ones. If there's not a legal hook, I don't really actually get involved that way. This is kind of labor intensive. I mean, we're going into the 6th week. This was the first, a day or two into the 6th week of it, business week. 28 days of trial is a lot for any person. I'll leave that to the legal channels, into Law and Crime and all of them that do it like professionally. It's just a hobby. It's a damn hobby. But I'm glad and honored I got to hang out with all of you to do it and gave you a place to talk about it. You showed up every day. You encouraged me to come back every day and do it. And I'm grateful to all of you for sharing it with me, because it made it much more pleasant to deal with on a regular basis, and much more interesting to hear all the different sides.
Honestly, for my first legal trial that I've ever followed properly, it's been a hell of a ride.
Yeah, you were part of this one, behind the scenes and in the front. So it does make it a little bit different. I think we met around Depp Heard, right? But that was
around Depp
just
Heard is where we met.
Mhm. This would be my first one carrying the channel itself. I did the first one with Ranty. I'd never thought about covering live before, although I had covered Depp Heard for 22 months before it went to trial. And the same thing with Murdaugh. I've been covering this as true crime, looking at it. When I say the word cover, I don't mean like a reporter or a journalist or anything like that. I mean like just a true crime fan. Just like a hobby, but really delving into it and checking out all the legal documents and really tracked it all that time with several of my friends, Kim being one of them, very versed in the research of it, and met quite a few interesting people away. And we had this little group of murder minions. That's what I called them. And yes, we actually have minions dressed like serial killers in the chat, but which I absolutely adore. Chucky being my favorite. But just following it as a hobby, but really getting invested in enough. And I found out that there's so many other people that were exactly like me. It's like a little network now of people that they just really got interested in it and wanted to talk about it. And some of the bigger channels are just too big to actually have a conversation in the chat. It's just too much. And it doesn't take anything away from them. I want everybody on YouTube to have a place, I just think there's room for everyone. There's just one small little nick, not looking to do anything else but let people talk about it, really. Well, thank you both. And Mate, I'm honored you came up here, and you got to let me know what your wife and the therapist say about this, like later.
Oh yeah,
I'm
I'll tell
really
you what the
curious.
word on the street is, and we can compare, contrast it to your more
Yeah.
technical analysis.
Yes, we can. And I am, I look forward to what you're going to be doing again. So on that record, do you have anything else you want to talk about your channel a little bit?
Oh, my channel? Well, funnily enough, Christopher, I'm not just a guitarist, I'm also a little bit of a rapper. So if you like a little bit of funk, I'm more than happy to jam with you that way as well.
Let's do
it.
Yeah.
So you got anything coming out soon? I know you
Yes.
just dropped something, a cover just a while ago, but
I may have another cover coming out, and then I'm going to be working on some original stuff that I'm really looking forward to. I've got some high hopes for it.
Oh, there you go. That's interesting because you've only been doing covers. I look forward to hearing that. That's good. You guys know he's already going to be linked below. He is now listed on the channel for editing and audio help all the time, so you can always just click his name to get to his channel if you want to sub or check out what he's doing there. And on that, thanks again, Christopher. Everybody check out his channel too. Don't forget to check out Godless Granny and What the Beck, who have been awesome during this whole thing. And don't forget about Petty Mango. I didn't see her today or last night, but she may be busy with this guilty verdict, making her own video, which you should all go check out over there too. Also, a wealth of information in regards to that. Like I said, YouTube's a big place. Sub and follow them all. Follow your passions. Keep the conversations going. Don't limit yourself to the opinions of others. Find out for yourself, and always listen to the other side, because you've got no argument if you don't know theirs. I say that all the time. So here you go. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Chris and Record, for being here. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Everybody in the chat. Yeah. I'm going to miss having coffee with y'all on Monday morning, but don't forget, I will be back Monday regular time with my normal true crime and legal update. You won't, this ain't the last of me. I'll see y'all later. Thanks, guys.
Take care.